You're listening to Friends Eastvale Weekly Sermon Podcast. Our mission is to become a community of Christ followers compelled to change the world. For more information about weekly services, small groups, and how you can become involved in our community, go to www.friendseastvale.com. Thanks for listening.
This morning, we also have a special guest speaker today. My friend Todd Moore, his wife Hannah, and him are missionaries. And he has been a great and dear partner in ministry for me for years. I met Todd maybe 2017 or so. And Todd works with church planters all over the world. South America, in Africa, in Europe, in Russia, in the UK, and he helps plant healthy churches all around the world. And we're going to talk about intentional relationships with people in our life and this church family, and I couldn't think of anyone better to give us a framework of how to do that. Let me just say this one thing before he shares. Men like him, come on up, Todd, you can come on the stage, bro. Men like him we hold in deep respect. Because him and his wife were missionaries for how long on what foreign field?
15 years.
In?
Czech Republic and Romania.
Yeah. And so they went to the hard places. And so anytime you have somebody who gave up 15 years of their life to serve in the foreign mission field, and they come back, and their whole job is to encourage church planters, and he's encouraged me a whole lot, we just hold people like him in high regard. And he's got a lot of good truths for us to learn about today. And so, Todd, I'll keep rambling until you fix your microphone. Let's give him a warm hand today, okay?
We didn't use these in Eastern Europe. No, a little bit about me. Yeah, grew up in the Midwest, Illinois. I'm a small town boy. Crazy how God, wish I had time to tell the story, how he moved me out of a desire to make millions. I was going to work on the stock exchange. Loved business economics, was in business school. God led me to quit and to do what I've been doing for the last 30 years. It's helping churches get healthier and help starting new churches. So I do that in about 25 different countries, all those places he mentioned, Eastern, Western Europe, South America, Indonesia, Japan, Australia, a lot of different places. But the things we talk about today are actually the things I talk about kind of day in and day out with churches around the world. So it's pretty cool, actually, how the things we talk about today are pretty universal. All these different cultures and big cities. I'm helping a church in Jakarta, Indonesia. It has become the largest city in the world. Anybody know that? 42 million people. It's almost the state of California, probably, in the city of Jakarta. And planning a church there. It's highly Muslim, but some really cool stuff happening. And what he's doing, and this church is doing in Jakarta, is actually quite similar to what I'm going to encourage you to do right here. So, but I live down in San Diego with that crew right there. So I've got a wife and 5 kids. 2 of them are in university at Biola, and 2 of them are high schoolers, sophomore and a junior. But I want to talk about that little guy in front, okay? He's part of our story here this morning. My wife and I had the first 4 children biologically, and then we started researching a bunch about the whole foster and adoption system in America, and we were living up in the Seattle area at the time, and we were just kind of shocked of the many children in the system. 500,000 in the system in America. 500,000, 500,000. It's incredible. Huge number. So, huge number here in California, huge number up there in the state of Washington, and so we basically felt like we need to get involved somehow. We didn't know. We just started educating ourselves. The more we got educated, the more we were like, yep, God wants us to do this. And so we got licensed. And then when you get licensed, you pretty quickly get a call, which we did for that little guy in front. His name is Zachary, and his parents were meth addicts living on the streets of Tacoma. So they were homeless, meth addicts. The mother had already lost a number of children previously, so as soon as she entered the hospital, the system flagged her, and we actually got a call immediately when he was 2 days old. And they said, you've got 6 hours to decide. You'll probably have him for the rest of your life. Do you want to do it? It's like you got 6 hours, literally. It's like, whoa. It's like we thought we were prepared, but I'm not sure we are. But God, are you prepared to help us parent this little guy? Because we're going to need it. So again, meth addict parent, so he was 4 pounds. So came early, premature 4 pounds, but went to the hospital when he was 4 days old, and they said he seems awfully healthy. So we were like, man, by God's grace, the meth had not affected him. And so he's super healthy. He's a great little club soccer player. He actually plays Flight 1 soccer down in San Diego, and he's smarter than he thinks he is. We can't get him to think about school more than he thinks about soccer. So that's another issue. But when we then, after a year, were able to legally adopt him, he took our name. Sorry. Didn't do that the first service. He took our name and became part of our family forever. It's a big deal. And so he's part of our family now. And it's what I want to start with this morning, is this reality that similarly we've been adopted into God's family, which is just as, not just as powerful, it's way more powerful. Because this family that the Bible talks about, that we're adopted into as sons and daughters forever. And what we get out of that adoption is spectacular, guys. First of all, it's eternal, but we're going to be in this new heaven and new earth, which the Bible describes. It's amazing. There's going to be no sin, no death, no tears, no meth, none of the bad stuff, no brokenness. Not going to be any of that. New heaven, new earth, new bodies, forever. But we're going to be adopted. We're going to be adopted into that and into that kind of family. Okay? Actually, let me go back a step. This is going to connect. I'll circle back around to that. But we're talking about intentional relationship today. And Jesus had some important things to say about intentional relationship, as he does, and then we see him model it. But let me just read in Matthew 22 what Jesus says about intentional relationship and kind of what the goal of life is. Kind of what the purpose of life, foundation of life. If you're wondering what the purpose of your life is, or maybe you've drifted away from remembering it, Jesus is really clear here in Matthew 22. Some religious people ask him, like, Jesus, what's the main thing? What's the big idea? What's the main thing? What do you think is the core of our belief, core of our life? Jesus says it like this in Matthew 22, 37 through 40. And I'm reading this out of the New Living Translation. It says, Jesus replied, "You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. And this is the first and greatest commandment." Okay? And a second is equally important. Okay? So not less important, equally important. And this is to love your neighbor as yourself. So he's making it real clear, right? The goal, the purpose of life is to love God with everything you have, everything you do, all your time, all your relationships. God's central to all of it. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind. Another place that says heart, soul, mind, strength, basically with everything. But then the second one, which is for us specifically today is this idea of loving your neighbor as yourself. That's pretty significant, right? Love your neighbor as much as you love yourself. Well, think of how much you've already loved yourself today. Okay? A lot, just in the first few hours of the day. You were thoughtful about yourself, intentional about yourself in washing properly, dressing properly, feeding properly, getting the right coffee, everything you needed to do. You put a lot of thought into it, right? You put a lot of thought, a lot of intention into caring for yourself this morning. And we do it every day, which we should. But Jesus is saying here, what if we were to go about our daily lives with that same kind of intentionality towards others? Whoa. Let's be honest, we don't do that very well, right? Because we spend so much time thinking about ourselves that there's not much left over to think about others. So you go to work, do you think about your boss, your coworkers, as much as you think about yourself? Not even close. You go to school, your classmates, your teachers, you think about them much? Okay? So you see what Jesus is getting at here. Okay? We got a lot of work to do. There's a lot of growing he wants us to do, to grow into this reality and to grow into this identity of loving people in this way, in this deep, consistent, intentional way. Okay? But this is rooted, okay? Let's go to that next slide, which comes from the book of Romans. So now I'm going to circle back around to our adoption. We will not love in that way if we do not feel loved. But I've already said it, and we're going to see it clearly here. We've been loved so much, the Bible tells us God sent his son out of that love motivation. For God so loved the world that he gave his only son, right? John 3:16, famous verse. Motivated by love. But the adoption, when we adopted Zachary, our motivation similarly was love. And man, as soon as we got him from the hospital, we've loved him like, you can't believe. But this really matters as we go about our daily lives for us to realize that we are so loved as God's adopted children, his sons and daughters. Look at what it says here in Romans 8:15. So you've not received a spirit that makes you fearful slaves. Instead, because that could have been the case, we could have been slave-like in our sin for the rest of our lives, right? But God sent his son because of his love so that we would not experience that slavery to sin and death, which the Bible talks about. So not slaves to sin and death, but look at the good news. You received God's Spirit when he adopted you, just like we adopted Zachary. He adopted us forever as his own children. Another translation says, as sons and daughters. And there's a lot of that family-like language throughout the Bible and throughout the New Testament. Okay? Family, sons and daughters, brothers, sisters, fathers, mothers. This is part of our identity as those adopted children of God. Okay? And that last little bit is so powerful. Now we call him Abba. And how that really translates practically is daddy. I'm going to tear up again. Because Zachary often calls me daddy. Hey, daddy, when are we going to soccer? Daddy, can we go play some more soccer in the driveway? Daddy, daddy, daddy. Because he feels loved, protected, cared for by his daddy. Okay? But God loves us that same way. So when you wake up in the morning, you might not be feeling it, or feeling like it, or feeling like going to class, feeling like going to work, feeling like running those errands, feeling like getting groceries, feeling like cleaning up the kitchen. You don't feel like it, but we got to return to this reality every day. Every morning we wake up, returning to this loved place. And basically saying, Daddy, I don't feel great today. I don't feel motivated. I don't want to go to chemistry, or I don't want to do that job, or I don't want to run those errands. Daddy, help me. Give me strength. Lead me. Empower me, Daddy, to do what I need to do today for you, with you, for your glory. Daddy. That needs to be the cry of our heart. That needs to be our prayer, like as much as we breathe. In and out, natural. We need to pray with that same daddy reality. Asking God to lead us, okay? So we've got this incredible adoption reality going on. But then as part of our adoption, like I said, Zachary became part of the Moore family. My family name is Moore, so there's 7 Moores. It's a lot of Moores. But he became a Moore, and as part of the Moore family, there's certain expectations, okay? You clean your room, you flush the toilet, you help clean up after dinner, you help the Moore family function as the Moore family, right? It's part of the expectations of the Moore family. It's part of our identity as the Moore family, okay? Guess what? God's done the same thing. He's given us an identity as part of his family of how we then go about our daily lives. And let me describe it here, okay? I'm actually going to go, well, I'll start at the left. I've already kind of described it, but obviously our adoption as sons and daughters has made us part of his family, okay? Part of God's family, but you, as this church, are family together. And it's one of the things I try to help churches with around the world, and it's surprisingly hard, actually, because it's so biblically clear, and it's actually incredibly life-giving. The more churches will function like a family. The more churches will do it, believe me, the more joy and this abundant life that Jesus talks about you're going to experience. So let me just say it like that. So let me strongly encourage you to say, from this day forward, how could friends here, Friends Church, increasingly live like family? Well, tell me how a family lives, a good family. They eat together, right? A lot of meals. Well, I don't know how much you're currently eating together with others, some others, a small group from this church, or those that live in Corona or whichever part of this region you come from. But man, please start eating together. Parties, anniversaries, birthday parties, whatever the celebration. Man, we should be the most celebratory people on the planet. In light of what I just talked about in our adoption, right? We should be partying all the time. And I believe Jesus actually did. And it's interesting. This is another whole sermon, by the way. God actually built it into the rhythm of Israel. Parties, celebrations. You understand that? It was so important to God from the beginning that with Israel, they were required to party. It's not a joke. They were required to party. They were required. You even had to tithe to the party. How cool is that? You had to give 10% to make it a great party. So there would be great food and great wine and great celebration, remembering God in the party. We don't party without purpose. We party because God's amazing, and we're part of that amazing family. That's why we do it. So that's what families do. They eat, they celebrate, they recreate. Do you guys ever go for a run or a bike ride or walk your dog or play pickleball or whatever your thing is together? Within this church, you should, okay? It's part of what it means to be good family. Good families eat, they play, they party, they work sometimes. You got a work project, man, cleaning up the garden, need some help. Call some people from the church, say, hey, family, need some help with that. Painting this room, need some help, whatever it is. Okay? It's what good families do. So that's a deep part of our identity as God's family. And then obviously closely connected to it, all those things, we do it as servants with a joy and a desire to serve others. It's not like, I've got to go help them again. I've got to take a meal to them again. Lousy family. Okay? Just making me tired. No. Out of joy and excitement and desire to serve as Jesus served. No surprise, these identities are rooted in Jesus and how he lived and what he modeled, right? So we're family, we're servants, we're missionaries. That's what Aaron was getting at and Kristen was getting at. A big part of this is we're not supposed to be like selfish family or hunkered down family. We're supposed to extend this family to the 4.2 million that live in the Inland Empire. And all of you, every single person here, you are surrounded by many lost people who need Jesus. Not one or two or 5 or 10. You're surrounded by many. You go to work with them. You live in the neighborhood with them. You go to school with them. You play sports with them. You drink coffee with them. You shop with them, near them. You are surrounded by many every day, every week. Far from God, outside of the family, slaves, as we read about, they are slaves. They will die in their slavery if they don't come to know and follow and be saved by Jesus. They will die in that slavery and miss out on this amazing adoption as children of God for the rest of eternity. He's called us to that. Each of you. Wish I could talk to each of you. Hear your names and where you live. And each of you is that important. You're not only important because you're a son or daughter, you're important because he desires for every person sitting here, young and old, doesn't matter your education, doesn't matter where you came from, doesn't matter what's happened in your life previously, does not matter. When you begin to follow Jesus, you immediately, instantly become his missionary. The Bible calls them witnesses, calls us sent ones, calls us ambassadors. I don't care how you think about it. The point is, we're supposed to go about our daily lives loving people, serving people, inviting them to Jesus. That is the purpose of your life, if you haven't figured it out yet. It's not about your job. Your job is secondary, actually. Your education is secondary. Your family, your actually blood family, my 5 kids, they're important, but they're actually secondary to the purpose and calling of Jesus to make more disciples and extend the family. That's Jesus' whole plan. In Luke 19:10, again, Jesus was asked, like, what are you doing? What is this about? Jesus said, I have come to seek and save the lost. Couldn't be more clear. It's like Jesus' mission statement, his purpose statement, his life purpose. I have come to seek and save the lost. I've come to redeem because the stakes are high. The stakes are super high. It's either slavery for eternity, slavery and sin and death for eternity, or adoption, sons and daughters, amazing, with God in the new heaven and earth. Stark, right? Stark difference. That's why the stakes are high. That's why all of you matter so much. You matter. Your families matter. Your kids matter. Your friends matter. You really matter. God really desires for you to go about each of your days with this kind of purpose, this kind of intentionality. It's not like, yeah, I'm going to work today. I've got this project to work on and this to fill out. No, that's secondary. You need to go and you need to do those things and get your work done and do a good job, but it's secondary. You go to work and school and everywhere you go to love the people there and to invite them to the family. It's the purpose of your life, your work, your play. My sister's visiting from Phoenix. She's retired. She's 10 years older than me, but she can still play pickleball. Okay, and I was talking to her. She's visiting just for a couple days. I loved hearing her talk about pickleball. She goes to pickleball because she likes pickleball, but she goes there as a missionary. She has story after, like literally, story after story after story after story after story of meeting non-Christians, lost people at pickleball, just kind of loving them well while they're playing pickleball, and then inviting them for a coffee or an iced tea or breakfast tomorrow or a burrito the next day. Inviting them then after pickleball getting to know them, building trust. She has had, just in the last week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, conversation upon conversation, hard conversations with very lost, very broken people, searching, needing healing, needing redemption, needing Jesus. But it all started with pickleball. Who would have guessed? Okay? But you see how easy it is? See how easy all of you can do it? Work, school, neighborhood. These opportunities are every day, all the time. People around you, far from God. You build trust. You get to know their story. Ask a few questions. It's like, hey, man, I'd love to, get a coffee with you tomorrow, hear more of your story. I did that a couple weeks ago with a guy that was a Jehovah's Witness. Like 6 weeks ago, he was one of the top Jehovah's Witnesses in San Diego. Actually, 2 years ago, he became disillusioned with it. He became an atheist for a year. Then he went yoga and New Age and meditation and demonic, and he was having a bunch of crazy demonic experiences. He was like, this isn't it. It's like, okay, Jehovah's Witness is not it. Atheism is not it. Hindu, New Age, meditation, that's not it. Maybe I should start reading my Bible. And he did that like 6 weeks ago. So anyway, that's not even the point. Incredible story. But I got coffee with him. I was like, man, I got to hear more of this story. And now I'm discipling the guy who's literally been following Jesus for 6 weeks. Simple coffee and a yummy chocolate croissant. That was the magic. Okay? Another guy I met recently, Muslim. Grew up in Syria. Incredible story of how part of his family is still in Syria, part of his family is in Switzerland, part of his family ended up here in San Diego. Again, another crazy story. But I was like, man, his name's Imam, which is interesting because that's a Muslim priest. So his parents named him Imam. So it was like, man, same place actually. I said, I'd love to get coffee and a croissant with you. Hear your story. 2 hours. Incredible story. But he's still Muslim. But guess what? He was like, I like you so much, and this coffee and croissant was good. Are you part of a church or something? And could I come? So he came recently. And then he came again a second time last Sunday. And he said, man, I've been just doing a lot of reading about this Jesus. Comparing it to my Quran. But it was really easy, guys. I just took a little interest in him, a little bit of intentionality with this guy when I met him and invited him to coffee and a croissant. Okay, if you're on a diet, you can choose something else, but it works for me, okay? But now he's on this journey to Jesus, and he's just soaking up the Gospels and Jesus, and we would assume God's going to bring him in. It's going to be one of those adopted sons, right? It's the same for all of you guys. Same for all of you. Your neighborhood, your workplace. My kids play a lot of sports, volleyball and soccer, but we see it as mission field. So my daughters play on a team that's completely non-Christian. And my 15-year-old daughter, because of her identity in our family, she sees herself as a little missionary. So guess what she's doing? She's having conversations with her non-Christian, she's 15, with her non-Christian teammates all the time. One of them was supposed to come to church this morning. I don't know if it happened back in San Diego. Okay, hope it did. So, but my 15-year-old daughter, yes, loves soccer, plays soccer, but she's on mission as she goes to training and as she plays games, right? Doesn't matter what your hobby is, pickleball, volleyball, doesn't matter. Whatever you like to do, surf. So do it with intentionality. God's called you to it. It's part of your identity as his sons and daughters. Does that make sense? Yeah. But the opportunities are all around us all the time. Time's flying. Let me give you some real practical things to consider, okay? In light of our adoption, in light of our identity, our relationships I've kind of already been describing this, but we're not supposed to do this alone. Jesus didn't model that. The disciples didn't model that. The early church didn't model that. Friends is not supposed to do that. You're supposed to live this kind of intentional life together, like with a small group of people. Interesting statistic, the average non-Christian will need to become friends with 5.3 Christians in their journey to Jesus. So my Muslim friend Imam, I'm not enough. But the good news is he's already come to the church, and a ton of people started talking with him and asking him questions, and he loved it. He was like, "You people are so warm," he told me. It's like, so warm. This is great. Like, who are you? But it's going to require others influencing Imam in his journey to Jesus, just like it is with your classmate or neighbor. You might be thinking of a classmate or neighbor and thinking, man, I want to see them come to know Jesus. I'm going to love them to the best of my ability, but I'm not going to be able to do it alone. So who can help me love them? And what kind of context can we create to love them? Okay? The good news is you don't have to hit the streets. You need to hit the table. I've already talked about the food a bit. Let me go for it. Jesus prioritized eating as mission. Luke 7:34. It's become one of my favorite verses this last year. The Son of Man came. Guess what it says? Luke 7:34. The Son of Man came eating and drinking. Isn't that cool? That's the mission, guys. We see it in Luke 5, we see it in Luke 7, we see it in Luke 15, we see it in Luke 19, we see it in some other places. They were inviting people to the table, building trust with those people and inviting them to the family. Think all of you can do that? Get a burrito, whatever your favorite thing is. I tell you, I work with churches all over the world. I've tried to make it simple for them and cheap because some of the churches are in poorer countries and big meals are not possible, and it's just not possible. So I've just talked to them about simple meals with people. Soup and a roll, soup and bread. Guess what? There's churches all over England right now prioritizing soup and a roll with their non-Christian neighbors. Russia, South America, it's like, okay, might not be soup. What is it? They've got in Colombia and Chile, they have other simple foods, but they're doing it more and more now with intentionality, inviting neighbors, coworkers, classmates, coffee, tea, whatever the thing is. Simple meal, soup and a roll. Invite a neighbor, invite a coworker with part of your small group or some of your friend group. Love them well around the table. Build trust around the table. That same verse I told you about, Luke 7:34, guess what? That is the verse where Jesus is called a friend of sinners. Isn't that cool? You want to make it amazing connection? The Son of Man came eating and drinking with who? Tax collectors and sinners. Towards what? To build trust, to invite them into the family. What if that just kind of became the thing around Friends? He became known as the church that eats and drinks appropriately. Okay? Soup and a roll. Or a good coffee. Okay? Somebody made some amazing scones out there, by the way. Tea and scones, whatever it is. Invite love, build trust, become a friend of sinners, invite them to Jesus. And that just kind of became the way Friends lives as a family. Family with each other. There's a lot of churches I eat that I eat with. A lot of churches that I meet with and talk to. It's actually so sad. They don't even do a good job of it together as Christians. It's like, what's wrong with us? It's like, why are we not eating? Why are we not being good family? Just even as Christians, let alone extending it to neighbors, coworkers, tax collectors, and sinners, right? So anyway, double down on it, please. However much you're doing it, double down on it, make it a priority. And again, you do it together. It's not alone. So you might be thinking, food prep and food cleanup and the cost. And no, we do it together. We share responsibility. We do it together. So the prep, the cleanup, all of it, we do it together. So it's not a burden on anybody. That's what good family does. That's what servants do, okay? So we do it in community. We're intentional. I've already talked a lot about intentionality. Intensive. I think it was Kristen that was up here at the beginning. She talked about proximity. This is connected with this idea. If you're only seeing some of your small group or people from the church outside of this room like once a month, I just got to call you out on it. You're not being good family. Okay? You can pray and ask God how you should grow out of that, okay? You need to be spending time together. There's no shortcut to being good family. Requires time. Requires proximity, okay? But it's not, a lot of you are like, man, I'm super busy with work. I'm working here. I've got this commute, sitting in traffic. I've heard all the excuses all over the world for decades. I can give you 1,000 excuses probably, okay, from all over the world. I understand the busyness. I understand the commute. I understand long days. I understand. But we've got, the things that I'm describing are just normal everyday things. Like you're eating, right? Or you wouldn't be here. You're exercising, some of you, okay? You're eating, you're exercising, you're throwing parties, you're watching football, you're doing all those things as part of your normal life. Just invite more people into the things you do. That's what intentionality is. It's like, oh, I've got to go run errands anyway. Oh, I could do that with somebody. Be a good family. Or we're going to eat this meal, soup and a roll. Let's make some extra and invite a few others into it. So you see, these are just daily normal things. The eating, the playing, the working, running errands, all those things. We're already doing them. I'm not telling you to add anything to your schedule. I'm saying sit down, look at your schedule, and say, how can I add people, invite people into our schedule? Youth sports, if that's your thing. It's part of our family's thing. It's not extra. It's already part of our rhythm as a family. We're just looking to be intentional with youth sports. So you get it? The eating, the playing. You're just adding in intentionality into it, okay? Last thing, or one of the last things, I'm running out of time. This is Aaron said it, this is a supernatural reality. Guess what? When Jesus gave this big kind of command to go and make disciples, and he said, I want you to be my witnesses. He said that in Acts. Be my witnesses in your neighborhood and in your city and even beyond your city. But he said, don't start until something happens. Because you can't do it without help. He said, don't start, don't even try. You'll fail, you'll crash. Don't start until the helper comes. It's so awesome. Okay? He was like, I'm giving you a pretty big task here. I want you to be my witnesses out in your city, in your neighborhood, at work, at school. I want you to do that, but you need supernatural help. You need the helper. You need the Holy Spirit. Super clear at the beginning of Acts. Gave him this huge task. Go and make disciples in all the world, but don't go yet until the helper comes. So let me encourage you in the same way. I'm going to send you out of here in a minute and pray for you to go on Jesus' mission as his family, especially to eat with intentionality or play pickleball with intentionality. But don't go out there without the help of the helper. So it just means you got to pray like crazy. You got to pray like you breathe, which I think Paul kind of suggests in Ephesians 6, right? I didn't understand that verse for years. Paul says in Ephesians 6, I want you to pray in the Spirit all the time. Like, what's he mean? It can't be right. Doesn't make sense. Pray in the Spirit all the time with all kinds of prayers on all kinds of, for all kinds of opportunities. It's like, I don't understand, Paul. That's what he's getting at. Just like breathing. Go to work, on your way to work, pray. Get in that meeting at work, pray. After the meeting, pray. Before lunch, pray. Who should I invite to the lunchroom, pray. Or at school, going to math class, pray. Before the class, pray. Because it takes seconds, right? God, lead me. Give me an opportunity. Help me. That's all it takes. 2 seconds. That's why you can do it like breathing. You can pray in the same way. Just ask God for help, to love, serve, speak about him. Just like breathing. Okay? So we're praying for opportunities wherever we go. Going in the park, going to play pickleball, going to the soccer game. I'm taking my girls to a tournament in Las Vegas next weekend. We'll be praying. God, pave the way. Okay? We're going to be spending 2 days with this team full of non-Christians. Pave the way. Open up opportunity. Okay? So, all of you are not only capable of this, you're actually called to it. So I'm going to let that sit in your heart. You're called to it. Now you have to decide if you're going to obey, respond to God's call on your life, but as well as just being faithful to living out the family identity. This isn't my idea. This is God's thing, okay? He's giving you that identity as family, servants, missionaries, and his students, okay? It's his. It's his vision for his family. You're part of that family. Your sons and daughters in that family. That's how he wants you to live in that family. Go from here, love well inside the church, love radically, generously, hospitably outside the church to your neighbors, co-workers, the 70% of the 4.2 million, that's some millions. So there's no shortage of opportunity. Okay? Let me pray that for us.
Thanks again for listening to the sermon. We hope you were blessed. If you would like to share your story, give to the mission, or simply learn more about following Jesus, go to www.friendseastvale.com.